Hello friends! I'm excited to dive deeper into my favorite illustration brush pack with you so you can see how these amazing brushes that I use every day in my personal and professional work can help you create better illustrations and better lettering on the iPad Pro using the Procreate app. Okay, we're gonna get started here exploring my new brush set. So if you've already uploaded your brushes, that's great. I have them all up here at the top of my list because they're my favorites. And we are going to draw a cute little Valentine's cat today to try out all of these different brushes. So to start with, I'm going to click on the round texture brush and lay down my first layer. Draw a nice oval. As you can see, it starts out pretty faint, but as you layer the color down, it creates a thicker shape in the middle, which is what I like. I like a thick, opaque shape in the middle with the fuzzy edges and just a little bit of texture on the middle. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Let's add some ears. Using the same method, just coloring more in the middle. Yeah, that ear's a little funky. So if you're not happy with, like, this is kind of tilted to the side, so if you're not happy, you can highlight that. Oh, I'm going to turn onto freeform and just tilt it a little bit. I could also, since I don't have anything else on this layer, I can just click this and move it that way. Okay, that ear is a little better position now. There we go, that looks a lot more normal. All right, so we have our base shape. Now I want to add a little bit of texture in the ears and along the cheeks. So I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to click my old layer with the cat head and hit select, and then go back to my free layer. And I'm going to make my color a little darker. And for the first set of texture, I'm going to use the fine texture tool. And I'm going to turn it up so it's pretty big, and then just gently guide it along the edges of my cat head. This is just going to give it a little more depth and roundness. You may not even be able to see it very well on the screen, but it just gives the edges a little extra depth. Now I'm going to go in with a little bit lighter color than what I started with. And on that same top layer with everything still selected, I'm going to hit my grain texture and just draw some little light specks. Oh, looks like that's not light enough. Let's go a little bit lighter. Oh, my opacity's turned down too low. Okay, you can start to see them come in, but that's a little too small for me, so I'm going to make this a little bigger. There we go, that's better. And just add this cute little dot texture. I'm going to give him a little chin. So I'm going to add a little more there at the bottom. Maybe a little in the ears. All right, that's looking good. All right, I'm going to deselect everything. And now you can kind of see where your progress is at. And I'm going to add a new layer. And this time, if you hold down on your art, you can select a color. So I'm going to go for that darker color. And then I'm going to go for my line texture. This one you kind of have to play with to figure out exactly how much. Like, that's a little thick. So I'm going to bring that down a little. Still a little too thick. There we go, that's looking better. And this just once again adds some more texture to that outside edge of your art. Give them little poofy cheeks. Maybe a little definition on the ears, and maybe right there at the top of the head. You can make it taper and go from small to big to small by having light texture, a lot of texture, and then light texture again. All right, that head is looking good. Now we're going to add another new layer, and this time I'm going to draw a little pink nose. So I'm going to use the thin liner for his nose, or her. I think mine's going to be a boy. No, let's make that a little bigger. I love this thin liner brush because it gives the effect of that outside speckled edge while still doing a very clean inside. Okay, and I'm just gonna fill that in. You can also fill in this shape by lightly, just barely tapping on the color and pulling it into your shape if you want it to fill it in completely. But I personally like the more colored in look just because it goes with the texture that I like in my drawings. So I stick with it like this. All right, now he's got a cute pink nose. Now I'm gonna give him a mouth. Let's do a lighter, actually go with a lighter gray color. There's a cute little mouth for the guy. And I think that nose is needing a little bit of texture as well to match the texture of the face. All right, I'm gonna choose a darker color to add some texture. And let's do a little bit of the fine texture, just right along the edges. Okay, it's not showing up too good, so I'm gonna make it a little darker. There we go, it's showing up a little better now. And then a little darker. I'm gonna go to my textured speckles. Get some little speckles in there. Might be hard to see on your screen, but the speckles are there, I promise. I also got a little texture I didn't want down here on the mouth, and so I can just take my eraser tool and erase that right there. All right, that's looking good. So I can deselect, and the nose is done. Now I'm gonna add some eyes, so I'm gonna add a new layer. I like to build everything on its own layer so that I have no issues going back and changing things later if I need to. I'm thinking some black eyes. Let's do some black eyes. I'm gonna go back to that thin liner brush, and we're gonna give him some cute little sleepy eyes. Adorable. And I also think he needs some ears. It's a little pink in his ears to match his nose. All right, he's looking pretty adorable, but no cat is complete without whiskers. So one more layer, add black. Cute, funky whiskers on this little dude. All right, so now I can tell that this isn't quite in the middle of my page and I want it to be. So I can drag to the right to select all of your cat layers. I wouldn't flatten them yet because we want to be able to edit them if we need to, but you can put them into a group. You can name it if you want, and then when we click on the arrow, we can move that whole cat face as a group. So put him in the middle. I can rotate him just a tad. All right, that's looking good. So now I want to add some text along the bottom and along the top, but I want it to be in a circle. So this is where my new guide brushes come into play. Add a new layer. I'm gonna change the color to a nice light gray, and then I'm gonna go to my circle guide. So you may want to just tap it on the screen once just to get a feel for how big it's looking. And I need it much bigger, so, oh, still need it bigger. Okay, that's looking better. As you can see, it did not get centered. That's okay. We will just use that direction tool, and then we can place it exactly where we want it. And I want to write along the outside edges of the circle, so I think I'm going to make it a little smaller, and to make sure that it stays a perfect circle, I'm going to hit magnetic. All right, so I'm imagining my typing here and here. That looks just about right. Maybe down just a little. If you want to just tap something just a little bit down or a little to the side, if you just tap the screen, it will just slightly move it where you want it to go. So I don't want to draw on this layer because this layer is just my guide. I'm going to add a new layer. If this is too bright for you, this guide, you can always change the opacity down so that it's just barely there, just as your little guide. All right, so now I'm going to add my type. So I want this to say, "You are perfect." Gotta love the cat puns. So I'm going to be on this light color still, and I'm going to go to my favorite pencil, which is what I use to sketch everything out. For this, we want to sketch it out just to make sure we get the type to fit where we want it to fit. Okay, that's not centered at all. I was thinking I was going to put perfect here, but I think I want to put perfect here. So I can click that button and turn it to freeform and put this right along the top. If you use one finger, it'll move it. If you use two, you can rotate. And I want to rotate it so it's just right there at the top of that circle. All right, that's looking good. And then I can add perfect under here. All right, that is looking pretty good, and it's nice and light so that I can come in with the color. So I'm actually going to turn that down even more in the opacity on the lettering. And I'm going to add another new layer. This time I need to decide what color I want to make that type, and I think I want it this nice hot pink. All right, so this I'm going to write with my round fuzzy lettering brush. It just has a beautiful flow, and I really like it for this sort of lettering. So I'm just going to follow my guides. That's a little big. I'm going to turn that down a little. All right, so now I have my lettering set, and I can turn off both of my guides, my type guide and my circle guide, and see how I like that placement. And I think that is so cute. All right, to finish this up, I'm going to go back to my favorite pencil brush. Zoom in here a little bit, and I'm just going to draw some little dots to kind of complete the circle. So I'm going to take these that I drew and placed. I'm going to, let's see, we have them all in one layer. So I'm going to take 3 fingers, swipe down, copy paste. So now they're right in the same spot, but I want them on this side. So I'm going to reflect them, turn on magnetic, and you can see that line comes across to let you just drag it perfectly over, perfectly over. All right, this little dot down here is getting a little lost, so I'm just gonna erase him. And then adjust these accordingly. Rotate them just so slightly to fill in that space. All right, now you have an adorable little cat Valentine that you can print off and send to your friends or post on Instagram. I hope this was helpful to help you know how better to use these awesome brushes in my new brush set, and I hope that you have a wonderful Valentine's and enjoy this new brush set. They are all my favorites, so I hope that you love them too.